You guys asked me to do a sharpening video, so today I have my buddy Jordan's 74 GEC in, and I'm gonna try to make one traditional sharpening knife video and one modern sharpening knife video. Now, I typically wouldn't use a wicked edge for sharpening a traditional, and I'll kind of explain that now. Usually what I would do is I would use my Spyderco double stuff and my Flex quadratic strop, and I think you can see the logo there, my Flex quadratic strop, and I would use these two things to sharpen a traditional knife because 1095 is fairly soft and it's easy to sharpen by hand. Now, a medium and fine Spyderco double stuff is not going to get it will give you a razor sharp edge, but this stone's not aggressive enough to take off a ton of material. So this will get you what I would consider a working edge, something that's going to be sharp enough to slice apples or pears or any type of fruit, cut tape on boxes, open up envelopes, that kind of thing. More than enough for what you're probably going to be using your traditional knife for. When I talked to my buddy Jordan, though, he sounded like he wanted something that was going to be very, very, very sharp. And also, he doesn't have anything to sharpen his knives with at this point in time. So I know he probably wants to be able to have an edge that's going to hold up a little bit longer. Now, with that being said, if you do have a knife that is sharpened and you don't have something to sharpen it with, I would suggest that you buy yourself a strop, and I would suggest that you learn how to strop because this will help you maintain your edge for longer if you cannot sharpen it yourself. With that being said, the other problem of using a wicked edge to sharpen a traditional knife is these other two tools that I mentioned are pretty easy to come by. You already have them in hand. It's not going to take you a long time to pull them out and get a knife sharpened. I kind of cheated a little bit. I had to pull out the tape so I could tape off the joint here because I didn't want to get any dust into the joint. I also wanted to make sure that I kind of taped off the ricasso right here, right at the back edge of the blade, because sometimes the stone can slip and it'll hit that. It's not my knife. It's kind of unavoidable, but I want to minimize it as much as possible. I had to pull out my Allen wrench because I actually broke and then lost the key that this came with years ago, so I could get this set up here and tighten this up. Also, I'm going to need it to adjust these arms here. I'm going to need this Sharpie to mark the edge so I can see where I'm removing steel. I had to cut and size chamois, which is what I use, just what you would use to dry a car or whatever, and put that in the jaw of the vise of the clamp so that way I didn't mar his blade. I don't always do this, but again, this is not my knife, so I want to take a few extra precautions. This also helps to make sure that your blade is sitting perfectly or as close to perfectly perpendicular in these jaws as possible. Now, I know that there is a new version that automatically balances some of that stuff out, or at least that's what I'm told. The other thing that I'm going to mention before I get started, and I'm going to start because I've already been talking for 3 minutes or so. The other thing that I'm going to start with is a higher grit stone. Now, I don't typically prefer to go all the way down to 100 grit, especially with the softer steel like this, that a higher grit stone can probably take care of just as easily or easily enough. I might have to sharpen it a little bit longer to get the burr that I'm looking for, but overall, it's really not going to be an issue. The edge that, when I spoke with Jordan, the edge that he told me he wanted was going to be something that was slicey. So I'm going to take the edge back some. I'm going to, instead of it being more of an angle like this, I'm going to make it a little bit more like this. So in order to do that, I need to figure out what angle I need to sharpen at as well, which is something else that's going to take more time. Now, I'm going to start at probably, I'm guessing, I'm going to say 20 degrees is where I'm going to start at. 20 degrees on each side, so 40 degrees inclusive, which would still be a pretty stout bevel on a modern knife. But because this edge is as fine as it is, I really don't want to go too low because I really think that's going to widen this bevel out, especially up here towards the tip. And that does two things. One is cosmetic, one is functional. thinning the bevel out, especially at this tip, you're going to have something that's not necessarily as aesthetically pleasing to everyone, which, you know, that's really a non-issue. You bought a knife to cut, but we all care about how our knives look, or we wouldn't buy all the knives that we buy. The other thing is, as you remove that material out here at the tip and you thin it out, that's going to make this edge more fragile. So I don't want to have a steel like 1095 get too thin, especially out at a critical point like the tip, where you're going to be piercing and maybe doing some light prying. So I'm going to shoot for 40 degrees, see where that takes me, and move on from there. I don't know if I said this or not, but I'm going to probably start here with these 400 grit stones, and I hope I can get that to focus. Well, you'll just have to take my word for it. 400 grit stone. Oh, I forgot one of my other tools. In order to figure out my angle, I'm going to need this angle cube here so I can figure out what angle I need to be at. And as you can see, this is why, one, I was a little skeptical about shooting a sharpening video, and two, I don't use a wicked edge to sharpen something like this that will sharpen up pretty quickly on a stone or get a working edge, because already just in talking to you, I've been talking for 6 minutes and I already did some of this setup before I even started the camera. So you can see what a time-intensive process this is. Now, I'm going to get us started a little bit, and once I get us started, I'm going to hopefully edit between stones, so that way all I have to do is show you exactly what stone I'm going to next, but the process is going to be the same as I move from stone to stone to stone, and once I get that burr. So I'm going to turn on my angle cube. Once I get my angle cube turned on, I'm going to zero my angle cube, and once it's zeroed, I'm going to use these magnets here, and I'm going to stick it to the side of my stone, and I'm going to, I like to kind of center it up exactly perpendicular with this base and take a reading. So I set it at 20 degrees here at the bottom. However, it's reading 21.5. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to turn this screw here, and I'm going to have to adjust this little setting so I can make a finer adjustment. And again, I'm not even certain that this is going to be the angle that I pick. However, I'm pretty certain, just guessing, this is going to get me pretty close to where I want to be. And I'm going to take it away from the knife and place it back on so it kind of resets itself and I can see where I'm at. That's not enough. Now I'm at 21.10. So I need to still go in a little bit more. And that's still not quite enough. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to back this out since it's a whole degree off, or a little bit over a whole degree off. I'm just going to back that back out to our original setting, or pretty close to it. And I am going to actually adjust the coarse setting one notch over. So I'm going for 20 degrees. It's at 21. Let's see, and that was the wrong way, moving it out. So I'm going to move it in one. That's still off. I'm going to move it in again. And that gives me 20.5. So now that's a better setting to have to work from, adjusting this micro setting. So once I get it at 20.5, I'm going to adjust it so that I have 20 or as close to it as possible. And that's 20.25. That's 20.20. Huh. Let's see. All right, I'm clearly going the wrong way because that's 20.90. So, and again, this is why I wouldn't use a wicked edge to sharpen a traditional for myself. All right, that looks like that's about 19.95. That's 20.00 on the dot. So what I'm going to do is I put some Sharpie along this edge. I'm going to take this stone and I'm going to give it a few passes along this stone to kind of see where I'm removing material and see if this is the angle that I want to be at. Very light passes, nothing too steep. And I'm just going to come in and I'm going to look at it. And yeah, that's going to lay my edge back, but I don't think it's going to lay it back too much. So I'm going to stick with this 40-degree setting. Now I need to set the other arm at 40 degrees. So I'm going to do that now. And it doesn't seem like 20 degrees on the base. This is something I was talking with Jordan about. He recently decided to pick up a wicked edge of his own. I suggest an angle cube to everyone because the markings on this base, and you can see them online, maybe I'll roll in a little bit of footage after the fact, these markings are not accurate. So if you use these markings on the Gen 2 or Gen 1 arms, it's not going to be accurate as it should be. So I need to grab my other stone here. And forgive me for reaching over there, but my stones usually sit right in front of me, and I've got a light over here to this side, and I've got the camera over here to this side, so I'm having to reach in between to get my stones. So I'm gonna rub this side just to kind of see if we're pretty close to even on both sides of the knife, and it looks like we are. Let's see, the light's kind of bright. It looks pretty close. So we're gonna go with that. And what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna start on the right side because I'm right-handed. I always start on the right side. And I'm gonna work this back and forth until I run my thumb over it this way and I can feel a burr on this side of the knife. You want to be careful not to go too close to the tip because you'll round your edge off, and that's not a good thing. So I'm looking here. It has broadened the bevel a little bit, but not too bad. I haven't hit the apex of the edge because I can't feel that burr, so I need to keep going. And one thing I didn't think about is the fact that I did not check this other side with an angle cube, so before I get started on the other side, I'm going to have to go back and double check that angle. I'm also not pressing too hard. Again, I just kind of want to respect the knife since it's not mine. But I would usually press much harder, which is going to cause this stone to remove more metal. So that's just another factor to keep in mind. All right, it's getting pretty close in a few of the places, but I still need to keep going a little bit longer. All right, now I'm getting really close, pretty much all the way along the edge. Since I don't like to take off a lot of metal, I'm going to now switch from this side here to the other side once I get that edge verified. And I need to spend a little bit more time back here though. And what will happen is over time, we'll get these two edges to perfectly apex and give us a really nice burr all the way along the edge. However, you don't have to do that on the first stone that you use. So as I said, this is not set correctly. I need to make sure that my gauge is zeroed. I need to affix the gauge to the sharpening stone. And again, I'm going to try to make sure it's perpendicular, parallel to the clamp here. And we're reading at 19.10. So we're off. I am going to, first of all, make sure this arm is tight. I'm going to loosen this one, and I'm going to move it one adjustment. So hopefully I can come back and get it closer with the fine adjustment. Let's see. Pull the arm out, put it back on. That's 18 degrees, so that's going the wrong way. That looks like it's reading right at 20 degrees here. And that's 20.15, so we're pretty close. I'm going to adjust this. And we're getting close. We're at 20.05. All right, that's reading right at 20. So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna tighten down my screws. That's something you always want to do. You always want to make sure that these screws are tight on your arms if you're using the Gen 2 system. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off and put it away. And I'm ready to go ahead and get started. So from this point forward, what I'm hoping, if I can figure out the edit, is I'm going to actually sharpen on the stone, and then I'm going to speed that part up. When I start the new stone, I'll tell you what I'm doing, and then I'll speed through the process of that, running through that grit stone, so on and so forth until I get to the end. So I'm going to start. All right, and again, we already have a burr, so I'm going to move on down to 600. All right, and we've already got a burr, so this side. And again, we've got a burr, so I always use my toothbrush and I brush my stones off because I don't want to get any dust on them, leave any dust on them that might cause rust. And I've been using these stones for probably, man, I'm gonna say maybe the better part of, I've had this system since it really first came out, and I've upgraded it all the way throughout. So I don't know how long that is, 7, 8 years, something like that. So now I'm on to the 800 and the 1000. The 800 is the blue, the 1000 is the yellow. So again, right side first, left side next. Check for a burr. We got it. Check for a burr, and we've got it. Our edges are looking pretty close to the same on both sides, so that's a good thing. Got a burr all the way down, even at the tip. So we're gonna swap over to 1000. We've got a burr again. All right, and we've got a burr again. Got a strong burr back here, but at the tip, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how we progress. Now we're going to move from the 800 and the 1000 to the 1200 and 1600 ceramics. Of course, we'll do 1200 first. And this, if you have a wicked edge and you want a mirror polished edge, this is where you're first going to start to see that mirror polish appear. So you really, 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 really want to make sure that you spend some time with these stones, because these stones will help you get that nice mirror finish that a lot of us are after. All right, and we do have a burr. And here I want to kind of get past that burr. I don't really want that burr sticking around. All right, now we're going to go on to 1600. All right, now at this point, I usually always do some kind of sharpness test. So I need to find where my phone book paper is. All right, let's see if this is sharp. I would say it's sharp. Even out to the tip. Maybe it could use a little bit of work out at the tip. Let's see. Let's see how the tip is now. Okay. I think that's pretty sharp as I almost cut myself. So I'm going to wipe this edge off with my fingertips. I'm going to put these stones away, and now I'm going to move on to the strops. And what I have here are, if I can get it to focus, hopefully, I have 3.5 and 5 micron strops. The paste probably could stand to be freshened up a little bit, but it'll still work just fine. They can be pretty dirty and still do a good job. So now if you notice, my technique has changed here with the strop. You can't go up and down, you've got to just go up. And you can really see it starting to pick up that shine. And I really honestly don't think I need to go past this level of stropping, but I am. So now I'm going to move on to 3.5. again, we're pretty sharp here, so I don't think he'll have a problem with sharpness after he gets this knife back. And now moving on to the one, hopefully you can see that, the 1 and the 0.5 micron strop. And here's the next big difference I noticed. You can really feel at 1 micron and below how smooth this edge is becoming. Just really, really evened out and smooth. All right, and one final sharpness test. Again, razor sharp. So that's it. That's how I sharpen. I'll probably take this out of here, cut the camera off, take this out of here, and roll in some shots of the edge itself because you guys might want to see that. Or actually, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to pick it up and hopefully we'll focus. And I don't know, I don't have anything that I think I can show that edge with, but let's see. Yeah, you can really see it there. You can see how polished that edge is. And like I said, it's obviously sharp. You saw how sharp it was. So I appreciate you guys watching, and this was the traditional sharpening video, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you in the next one.